Hey, everybody. Welcome. Education, Smeducation, another week, another podcast, baby. Another great start. I've been listening to the beginnings of these, just the beginnings. I'll listen to about 15 seconds and then go, well, not for me, and turn it off. No, that's not true. We've been getting some really nice feedback, and we appreciate everyone who's reached out. I got a letter from Bridge for Youth, which was a charity that we donated to in the Elliott Ray Hall episode. So we want to thank Bridge for Youth for sending me a letter through the mail. I went to to get the mail. That was my walk for the morning a couple weeks ago. We're still in Chicago. I'm still in Chicago, where it's been ridiculous. And it was 45 degrees outside today. And I saw a man in shorts and a tank top. And that is the Midwest in a nutshell. Speaking of the Midwest in a nutshell, representing the former number 91 of the Chicago Bulls, a red-haired Ken Hamlett is with me today. Ken, for the listeners, tell us what's going on up top, baby.
It's actually pink. It's like a fuchsia. It's a pink color. It's
Then that would be Los Angeles Lakers Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta get the correct Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, of course. Number 73.
I'm going through my midlife crisis. I turned 30 on
that. You got to realize that I'm over that, and so is our guest, and it's and you should be going through a crisis right now because turning 30 in quarantine, that sucks.
Yeah. Pretty shitty. Not the way I wanted to spend my dirty 30. So I'm calling this 29 and a half, and then we're going to do it, run it back next year. I'm going to run it back next year.
I recently forgot that I was 31. Someone asked me how old I was, and I said, I'm 30.
Like, I'm up there. I don't know how old I am. Does it matter anymore?
How old are you? I'm tired. That's the ass. Our guest today, boy, oh boy, you've seen his work whenever you click on the show. But more importantly, you've heard his work throughout the annals of time and space and history. And every time someone asks me what my favorite joke is, I don't know what to say for a second. And then I think, and then I say, 5 sneezes equals 1 orgasm. And they say, what are you talking about? And I go, never mind. Anyway, here's the author of 5 sneezes equals 1 orgasm, a man I started comedy with. I didn't mean to do this, but I booked back-to-back Detroit guests who used to be roommates. But this man's more than a roommate. This man is an artist. He's a comedian. He's a boy, oh boy. If I had a better command of the English language, I would paint a rich tapestry of not verbs, but adjectives.
Adjectives,
yeah. To describe our guest.
Don't worry, y'all. He's not teaching English.
No. Luckily, when you teach history, you don't have to use words. Trevor Smith's here. What's up, Trev?
Hey. Right off the bat, 4 out of 10 for the intro.
Oh, okay. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Always good. Room to improve.
You would have got higher if you would have described me as verbs. I think that would have been like, just look at this guy. He's run, fall.
He's really jumping in these streets.
Yeah. That's why I would describe Ken as kicking a cameraman. That's what Ken does.
Of course.
And I would say Trevor is playing with his shirt usually. So Trevor, I think we met when I was definitely still in college. I think you had just graduated.
Yeah, or I think, or either it was either my last year and it was one of the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the two. But it was either when I had just graduated and because you were definitely still in, because I remember going, yeah.
Hardcore. Yeah. Well, you came in, you went to Michigan State Halloween with me once.
Did.
And I still remember my costume, which was a guy wearing a suit a great costume.
Great costume.
Solid costume.
Oh, yeah. College Halloween is like the best, especially at Michigan State, but I'm not working too hard for a costume. You know what I'm saying?
No, not at all. I didn't go as one. Yeah, I never put any effort into Halloween costumes in my life. I don't think, but like I think even as a kid, I was like, do I have to? But guy in suit is pretty good. I basically went as a guy in suit once. I went as a guy in suit, but told everyone I was a game show host, and they're like, "What game show?" Oh, like you're, and I'm like, no. I made this game show up. But in it, I would wear like what game show host doesn't wear a suit? Like I would wear a suit.
Of course.
Anyway.
Even Beat the Geeks, the man wore a suit.
Right. So it made sense to me that I could go as game show host. I think just wear a suit.
Yeah, I think it's on them for questioning it, honestly.
Yeah.
What are you doing bringing logic into this? Get out of here. I think the only thing I would do is later in college, or later in life, actually, I would wear a suit and I would shave my mustache. I would always have a beard, but I would shave my mustache. Abraham Lincoln, maybe.
Oh, yeah. It's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they go, "Where's your top hat?" And I go, "I'm off duty." Get out of here. I'm not on duty. So I think we also have a very similar way that we started comedy in that we loved it as children obsessively.
Yeah. That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Which is a lot how we bonded. I feel like initially, well, one, being of a similar age helps when you're in a scene together, and it isn't like as big as other things. It's more sprawling. You like sort of latch on to people who, one, take it seriously, and two, are
the same.
You would hang out with, as opposed to someone that's like 10 to 15 years older than you, and you're like, I'm 21. Wait, we don't relate to each other in that level. It's like comedy friends, but not as like, I'm not gonna go to their Halloween party.
No, that would be odd if you go to like a middle-aged man's Halloween party and you're 21. You're like, I'm a game show host. So like, what are you talking about? It's like we didn't dress up. We're here to snort Valium off a bitch. We're middle-aged Michigan pillheads. Get out of here.
But yeah, no, I feel like there are definitely many conversations of sort of inspiration. We have a lot of overlap in the inspirations that weren't everyone else's, I feel like, and that's why it also made us get along. Yeah,
for sure. Todd, we both loved Todd Glass, and if you're at the time we were like starting, it was like, oh, I found another. It was the same way you find other people who like punk or whatever, like what Ben Roy was talking about a couple weeks ago. We're just like, oh, we did you have
which was I guess the other part of it too is that we were similar music tastes, and so we that also had a lot to do with our friendship early on, is figuring out those. Yeah,
for sure. Speaking of our overlapping music tastes, Bruce Springsteen has been freed. He's been freed of his trumped up DUI charges that I think they were put on him by a Seeger fan. I think it was a clandestine cop Seeger fan who arrested the boss, and he got off scot-free. Hear that? Silver bullet bitches. Get out of here.
Hey, come on. No.
I'm kidding.
If by the way, if you were doing this podcast with Brad, the next 40 minutes would be about how Seeger is a Democrat and is like very into left-leaning stuff. Like,
oh, Brad, like our friend Brad Wenzel defends Bob Seeger like he owes Bob Seeger money. It's the same way, like if you said something terrible about someone's mother and their mother had just passed, that's how Brad defends Seeger. And he will kill a whole car ride from Chicago to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, telling you about how great he is. And it's a delightful time.
Me and Brad do a podcast about Bob Seeger, and it's Pod Seeger, and it literally, the genesis of it was that Brad is like an encyclopedia of knowledge of Bob Seeger. I love Bob Seger, and I also but I don't have like the knowledge that Brad does. So a lot of times it's him, filling me in on these weird facts and stuff, and it makes for a fun sort of dynamic. But Brad will go hard for Bob at any occasion.
He loves him. He loves him here. So when you're in school,
I never went to school.
Thank you very much.
This is when I told you I didn't go to school. Yeah. What if I waited until?
I've never even been inside a school. It's a completely foreign concept to me.
Never been.
Yeah. I have what's referred to as a feral education. I learned exclusively on the streets, and that's all I got. But when you're in school, are you funny? Do you like school? Is it just something you gotta do? What are you doing in school out in Pinckney, Michigan, Michigan, where you?
Yeah, I took school very seriously. Like I was always like a very serious student. So I wouldn't consider myself like the class clown in sort of a way that like gets kicked out of classrooms kind of thing. Because everyone knows that. But like that wasn't me. But I was like, I did a lot of like elaborate pranks, and I did a lot of prank phone calls and stuff. Yeah. And so I was always doing, I feel like, funny stuff and sort of stretching but I was always teetering a line of like, this won't get me in trouble, will it? And then, but yeah, so a lot of, I didn't like hate school, and I wasn't like particularly like a bad student. I was a good student. So, but I don't know. But then there's plenty of people who probably didn't even know I talked,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, because I just wasn't that like extrovert, like sort of do draw dicks on the chalkboard type humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which
has its place,
Oh, for sure. No, I'm saying that because I couldn't do it. They it was already been done.
Are you trying to deny a dick drawing or something? Like, what is the...
No, I didn't do it. No. What I'm saying is
like, I didn't do it. I swear it wasn't me.
We have it on good authority. We cross-checked your handwriting. We have pictures of your real life penis.
I feel like when people traditionally think of class clowns, it's more, it's more either mean-spirited or something. And I never wanted to be particular. Like, there was never any there was one teacher that took me aside because I kept laughing at his jokes. Which, like, technically there's nothing wrong with that. No one else was. So I would just kind of really give it to him, and he would make the jokes is the thing. And then I did he took me aside. He's like, look, tone it down.
It's like I should be killing. I shouldn't be killing this much.
Like, I think he knew. I think he caught that I was doing it sarcastically in that way, because it was making other people laugh that I was laughing at him.
Yeah.
And then he was like, he was like, look, we got the same sense of humor. I get it, but other people. And he was like, finding this nice way to say, please, I can't turn it off. I'm not going to stop making jokes, but just if you could not laugh at me.
Like, Trevor, now I have two settings. I have on and moron, and now we think that's funny. We find that to be a humorous, but they don't know.
I know I said get in the zone, chromosome, but it's not. You didn't have to fall out of your seat. You could have just acknowledge it.
I said chlorophyll more like snorophyll because we both know we know the movie. Like he gets the movie quote wrong, but he's like, but we know the film. Willie Madison. Yeah.
Willie Madison.
Yeah, we know. We get it.
We know Captain Ron, And
Captain Ron. God, we like funny movies. Cabin Boy. Come on.
Yeah.
Do you so the pranks that you're pulling now, I'm privy to these pranks, and
sure.
One of my favorite things is the card trick thing.
Oh yeah, so one of the things I would do is in the hallway between classes and stuff, I would I never knew magic, and I can't stress that enough. But I found out early on I can make it look like I'm about to do magic.
Yeah.
Just by the hand gestures. And so I would have a couple people start to gather and just try to get a big crowd around, because people, they're poking, they're like, what's he doing? And I would just be mid-trick.
Is it a fight? Is something happening? Yeah.
Yeah, and I would be like, so, and as more people showed up, you can tell them what the card was. It doesn't affect, or whatever. Just don't tell me. Don't. And they would like whisper it around, and I would just be like, I would just make them do. I would just make them do stuff until people started leaving. Like until they're like, this isn't worth.
It would just never end.
I went from being like so invested to I do not care anymore, and then I would just like, and then the whole thing would end with me being like throwing them everywhere, and then like being like, now pick up that card that's face down, and I would point to one, and I'd have my hand, I would make a whole thing, and then they'd pick it up and they'd be like, this isn't my card, and I was like, fuck, and then I would just walk away like upset. And that was the whole bit, was like seeing how long I could like keep a crowd.
So did people ever catch on? Like, how often did you do that? Was this like a once a week?
Yeah, I mean, you could only kind of do it but then the people who knew kind of that it was that the bit was how long is he gonna go, then they would kind of, once if they saw it, they would be like, oh, he's doing that thing. This is kind of funny, because if there's anyone there that doesn't know it, I want to see their reaction. Yeah. Which I used to do that same like bit, not just magic, but just in life, like in almost everything that I did. Like there was a time in college, I was the cartoonist for the newspaper, and there was a time in college where I had like at this orientation with all like the freshmen and stuff that were coming, and I set up a booth that had like the newspapers from the Western Herald, said like, oh, the Western Herald cartoonist will do your caricature for free, like to promote something. And so I would stand there, and then the bit was, how long can I make this person sit here and not draw them? Like, so and then I would just like, there would be people, the bit would kind of end as the crowd came behind me to see what I was drawing, but I would just draw like a Christmas tree that looked like a 2-year-old drew in crayon, or I would draw like I would draw a silhouette of them, and then just a very detailed person behind them, like in the, like this, just like not supposed to be part of it. And
when you're
that
doing
bit
this,
is always funnier to describe than it was doing it. That's important to say, because like no one got upset. Like it just didn't really kill, but it's very funny to me in theory and in hindsight. But it never really got the reaction I wanted, because like by the time I gave it to them, they're like, and they would leave. Like it was never like, what? Like, you made me sit here for like, oh man, what? Like it was never. It was like oh, okay.
That bit ends with, oh, it looks like the newspaper sucks. That's the only reaction. It's like, cartoons here are terrible. I should have went to Central or something.
Yeah, like
I cut funding for this. Fuck it.
Yeah, this guy sucks. This is just a headshot of John Stamos. Yeah. Like this isn't even a drawing, which is another thing I gave somebody. Like just a printed out, like glossy headshot. As if I drew it. But
it's amazing.
But yeah, that I feel like that same bit in different forms has been sort of a bit throughout my life, and mostly in school, because it technically isn't that menacing or like then so it sort of teeters that line of just like, this is really annoying and it's funny to me, but yeah,
it's definitely a thing you can get away with, because you're not roasting someone, or you're not
we used to kind of
aggressive at all.
Now that I think, we used to kind of do that similar bit at the showcase where you were about to break dance. And we would try to get the crowd around us until people were like, no one's gonna break dance.
Well, that's been my character for years. The guy who's really excited to break dance but cannot break dance. Yeah. The guy who's put himself on the spot and then gets up there and it's just like, oh fuck, I can't do this.
How do you like do the? I can picture it, but how do I do it?
It's like there's a hand, and then you just kind of, I don't know, man.
It's like I'm like almost sitting down, but I'm spinning. Yeah. I don't know. Like, you're just describing breakdancing to a crowd of people.
Yeah. It's like, just picture this. Me on my own head. duh. And they're like, what is this? Is this the show? What the fuck?
But then you still put a hat down for tips, though.
Oh, of course, yeah.
For sure.
I need to get home,
Yeah.
I always go with leaving bus fare. I don't leave with coming home bus fare. That's what the dancing's for, Ken. Wasn't there one time where you did the cards thing in school and then you accidentally picked the right card?
Oh, yes. So I got sidetracked, but that's why I stopped doing that. Like it literally.
That's why you stopped doing magic, because you did the magic trick right.
One time,
like, magic is real. I gotta stop this.
I
might really be magic.
I messed around with this kid for like 15 minutes, and like this thing, and everyone had seen. They're like, "Oh, he's doing the thing," and then I forget what I had him do to end, because it would always be different. I would be like, "Oh, take this deck, put it in your shoe. Okay, now shake your shoe." It was just, none of it made sense. And I always ended with, now pick that card. And he picked it, and it was his card, and everyone freaked out. And and they're like, "Do it again." I was like, "No, never."
Retire the champ.
Retired. Yeah. Wand drop. I'm out of here.
And it's funny to me in hindsight, anyone describing that, like, it was this great trick where like and then none of the steps make any sense. Like, maybe put it in my shoe and shake it, and then like split it up and hand it out to other people, and then we put it back into a deck, so the handing out part didn't matter at all. Why did we even do like none of it made sense.
Made me fill out a W-9. Crazy.
Which is
like, pretended like he was going to break dance for 7 minutes.
And then that was the comedy show portion of the trick.
Which is
crazy.
It's kind of like full circle. I did these. I have a friend that's a magician out here that is great. He's like an actual works the Magic Castle and stuff. Like great magician.
Say his name.
And
Say his
Michael
name.
Michael Friedman. And he's I used to like do shows with him. Like I would open for him, like at this residency he had in Santa Monica. And occasionally we would do sort of an extension of that bit of me being bad at magic to start the show. And it's still like, it's a very fun opening, because basically the whole bit is I'm doing like, 10 to 12 up front. And then, which is not uncommon to open for, other things that aren't comedy. So like it's a fun gig, but the bit would be like, I got notified that he's running late, and so I'm out of jokes, but there's a bunch of magic stuff, so let me just do a trick. And I would make someone sign a card, and then the next like few minutes would be me struggling to be like, all right, you sir, second row up there, stand up, what's in your back pocket, don't tell it, what is in your back, and then like he'd be like, nothing, and I'd be like, shit. Okay, miss, your purse. Can you look through your purse right now? If you could just look through, and they're like, she'd be like, there's not a card in here. I was like, and it would just be me sweating bullets trying to find this card that like somewhere, it's just in the deck, but I've convinced everyone that it's somewhere else. And then Michael would come out and like save me and be like, I'm so sorry I'm running late. Trevor's a great comedian, and that's it. And I feel so bad that I'm running late. You picked a card, I'm so sorry, and Trevor's not good at this. I would like to, I'll give you my business card, I can come do a show anytime. And he would, out of his wallet, would pull out the card that was signed that I couldn't find, that I did. So it was such a cool way to start a show. That's amazing. And I still kind of don't know how he does it. I mean, I know the card was in the deck, but I don't he never told me that, and I'm just like, no, he's good.
I don't want to know about how magicians doing things. There's so little in my life that I can still be amazed by. Yeah. But what was cool, I'm an old man. I'm 31.
So satisfying about that is that people at that point weren't expecting a trick, because they're just like, okay, the bit is this guy can't do magic. That's kind of funny. But now the magician's here. And then it's so unexpected that he's like, out of his wallet comes the card. That it was just such a perfect way to start it, like make that transition from comedy to magic, because it makes him look amazing, and it's also gets a huge response. Yeah,
for sure.
And it makes me look dumb, but I like that's like
that's
part
the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Me and Rick Ricardo opened for a magician once in Whitmore Lake, Michigan, right by Captain Joe's, Whitmore Lake, Michigan, right off the exit something. And we get there and they just tell us it's a magician. They're like, hey, it's a magician. And we get there and we do our sets and it goes whatever. It goes as well as it's going to go in 2010. And then we find out that the magician is not a magician. He's an illusionist.
Oh.
Like a Chris Angel mind freak kind of guy.
Okay.
And they hated it.
What did he do or try to do?
It was a lot of like trying to, I think the term might actually be a mentalist, because he was trying to do all these things where he was like guessing like very intimate information about people. And he like, the one thing he did is he read off an entire credit card number into the microphone on stage.
That's just fraud. It's
just fraud.
There's just a guy with like the headphones. Like, we got it. It's all one big scam to get someone's credit card information.
Yeah. And there was like an element where he was like, has anyone lost anyone close to them in the last 2 years? And I think that's the worst crowd work I've ever seen. Has anyone had a loved one die recently? Like,
what a sweeping, like, what a huge net he put out though too. Yeah. Like anyone close to you in 2 years. Like, I don't know. Yeah, in a crowd full of people. Okay.
Is that close to that many?
Are you gonna get a
yeah, there's been some deaths. Come on.
Wow.
Get out of here. So you mentioned earlier that you were like a very serious student. Why? Yeah. What made you be like, okay, this is something that I will be excelling at? Here it is.
It wasn't always necessarily that I was like good at it. It was just that like I think that was maybe just my personality to take school and kind of everything I did seriously, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself, which I still do to this day with stuff. You know, I feel like feels the same as school to me in that sense.
Yeah.
That feeling of like, I don't want to do this wrong, or I just, you know, and so, yeah, I wanted to like do well, you know, my parents wanted me to do well too. So, I mean, I know it's ingrained from that, but I wasn't just doing, I mean, I knew that like, okay, good grades equal this, you know, and it's easier than falling behind.
Yeah.
Cause then it feels like you know, so I don't know. It always made sense to me to just like do what I was supposed to. And it was never really that much. That's what I never really understood. Like people that would, just like not do homework or not study for a thing and be like, man, this is hard. And I was just like, I don't know. I mean, I just like looked at the thing that they said to look at. I mean, college was a different story, but I just mean like
100%.
But like, you know, most of the time you kind of get how to study for things pretty early, or maybe I just did. But I just wanted to do well. So I took it seriously, you know?
For sure. That is such a pragmatic way to look at school. And I think you're the first person on the show to basically just said, yeah, I was good at it because I wanted to be good at it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't think it necessarily came natural. I think being a good student maybe came natural to me, which is different. That just means like not being an asshole to teachers or not like doing things that you're asked, things like that. But like, I mean, yeah, I put so much pressure on myself, you know, too. So it's like, it's not that I was like, particularly like, it's not like certain subjects were like so easy and that's why I was a good student. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's definitely those people who are just like, oh, this is not even a challenge to you at all.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you know where that pressure was coming from, or just a self-imposed?
I think self-imposed. I mean, obviously, like, you know, my my mom really pushed me to do well, my grandparents as well, you know. But I mean, I feel like a lot of kids have that and some don't. I don't know, don't like listen to it as much, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, every parent wants their kid to do well in school, so I mean, it's not that unique of a thing. But I guess she did, you know, push me more to do that, and then I don't know, and then I feel like looking back at it, so much of the pressure was myself. Like, I don't think it would have been the end of the world to get like a C, but I made it my business not to. I don't know, you know.
I was like that for most of my schooling career, and then I think I got to like second semester junior year of high school, and I ended up getting a C, and I was like, oh, everything's fine. Like,
I think that's what good. What it comes to, because also like then you start like, oh, I need this to, I don't know, I need to, when like especially around that time when you start thinking about college and stuff, and you're just like, well, now I can't slip up, I can't, you know, like I have to do these things matter for this, and you put more pressure on yourself, and it's but yeah, I agree. I feel like that it was almost refreshing if you live so much of your school life being afraid of like dipping past a certain, like, you know, I don't associate with C's. Like, that's not me.
I don't get C's.
You gave me the wrong paper.
Yeah.
Because these, miss, is the right answers. Yeah. But
you're just pointing to like, it just says like 3 + 3 = 12. Like, you're just, it's completely wrong. You're like, no, I get the right answers, lady.
And yeah, I there was one, I was particularly bad at math.
Shit. I was no problem saying I think I've said on the podcast before, one of the easiest math classes in the history of Michigan State. I got a 1.5, math 103. I
took the bare minimum in high school. I had to take math, which means I only had to take 3 years. So I didn't have to take math my senior year of high school. And because of my major, I only had to take one math class in college. And it was like for writers, it was like story problem math, which I'm better at because I can kind of understand it. Yeah. But still, especially being a couple like years, because I took that like later. So like being a couple years removed from any math, I was just like, I hate this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
This is blowing my mind.
And I was bad at math. And I looking back though, I knew this at the time. Like, I was like, I feel like if I had, because I had like good history teachers, I had good science teachers, art teachers. Like, I had, like, there's people where I go like, oh, like I had a teacher who made like Shakespeare interesting to me, which is hard
to do. Yeah, very hard to do.
When you immediately are like, this is silly. But why did why? First of all, before we get into this, why do they talk like that?
Question: what's Macbeth's deal? Bonk.
Yeah, no, he's the son of the king of the. But why is he talking? But like, that's like the mark of a good teacher, is making something that seems like impossible for you to comprehend.
Yeah.
Not only click with you, but like, oh, this, yeah, I see all the, and I legitimately don't think I ever had a good math teacher. They were all like classically bad math. I think back about how they taught. It was uninteresting. It was like they were boring, and they were kind of mean, and there were those sticklers for like, you know. So I look back and I was like, why don't? Maybe it coincides with being my least favorite subject, but I think it could be because of the teachers too.
And a bunch of duds.
Yeah.
What this teacher who made Shakespeare interesting? How did they make it interesting? Also, we've discovered that everyone has high school teachers with weird names. So please say their last name.
Please drop a weird name.
Yeah.
I just blanked on her name.
Oh no.
But I only took that one class with her. I only took Shakespeare, and the reason I think that it was just a feat is just because like it seemed in high school like this what is this class? I don't know what. Shake, like, and then like I just remember like being like, oh, because I think what made it good is that she took the time to like translate basically what's going on, being aware like this is like weirdly written language, but just focus on the story of what's happening, and then you're like, and that clicks with people. I mean, because then you start relating it to whatever else. So I feel like that sort of having someone explain like the plot to things like as they're happening, which is maybe how everyone has to teach Shakespeare. I don't know. I just mean like without that, and just like go read this thing and let me know what you think. It would have been a different language. Literally.
You would have even tried probably, or you would have tried, but it wouldn't have been enjoyable. You probably wouldn't have gotten anything out of it. And right. It's interesting that you describe that, because that's a very similar way to how they now are instructing teachers to teach students where English isn't their first language, is to kind of give you these little kind of guide tent posts, scaffolding as it'd be, to help them understand the material a little bit more. So it's very interesting that that's how that teacher taught Shakespeare. And I really think the real question here, and I hate to keep going back to this, why did they talk like that?
Because I feel like with a lot of like history can be taught in a similarly like grueling, sort of frustratingly boring way like math, because if you want, it's just dates and names and stuff like that. But if you have a teacher who makes you remember things, because it's not just memorize these dates, then it becomes better, and you start to learn context and importance to things. And so I feel like I had good history teachers too that changed, flip that, I guess, of where it's like this should be as frustrating as math to me, because it's similar. It's like there's only one answer to things in both.
I mean, in certain respects, yeah. There's if you just go by dates and hey,
which
December
is like
7th,
the high school curriculum, I feel like is like
for sure
they need to know these. Yeah.
But there's so many different ways to skin that cat. The cat that we call history. The
That's true.
Cat in the club. Do you remember the name of that history teacher? We need some crazy teacher names. We're putting together a database.
Yeah. Mr. Brandenburg.
Oh, Brandenburg's not bad. It's not great, but
no, he was great.
Strong six.
Yeah.
The 6? Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite teacher name that you've heard on the show?
I never remember him.
Oh, gotcha.
I can't remember, but the one last week was pretty. That was a name last week.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to last week, what are you doing? These are the back episodes, baby. They're all there for you. Also, there's another show that was before this show on the feed. It's different.
Also true. Yeah.
The same feed from the old podcast. So it's all there. Enjoy the Mike O'Keefe archives. Archives. Trevor, what did you say? And more importantly, what would Mr. Brandenburg say?
He would say, "What are you talking about?"
I like this guy.
This guy's a straight shooter. This guy. And he'd say, "What are you talking about? And why are you talking like this through yonder window breaks?"
What? Yeah.
Hear ye, for history talk. Were there any teachers in either high school or college, probably in high school, because you in a weird way, like you kind of started comedy in high school, but not really?
I did. No, I
have a steel fucking trap memory.
Well, the first time I did stand-up, I was a junior in high school, and it was for the talent show, Mr. Pinckney High School. And They didn't let first time doing stand-up, I won the competition, huh?
They didn't let gals into the contest?
I think they had it. No, I guess it was just a Mr. PHS. It was called.
I thought that was the name of the school, and I was like, "That's a weird name for a school."
Mr. Pinckney.
Pinckney High School. Pinckney High School. So it was Mr. PHS. And so that was the first time I did stand up, but it was a drama teacher that got me, like, kind of pushed me to do it. And so we had
His name was Mr. Mixelpix.
It was Mrs. Goss, and she was probably the most important teacher I can think of in high school. And it's also, I didn't really take drama classes, but my junior year they started a class called improv. Like that was a class in the drama department, and so I took it. And you could take it. It was kind of like they only had like one drawing and painting class, but you could take it a bunch of times. They would just call it drawing and painting 2, but they would put you in the same class with drawing and painting. So improv was kind of the same thing. It counted towards like drama credits basically, or whatever, but you could take it more than once. That's only important because then I just kept taking it. I did it, and that's how I met our mutual friend Tony Pisaneski.
Oh, Tony P.
Tony P, who is to this day one of the funniest people I've ever met.
Tony P is the funniest person who I've told to never do stand-up comedy ever again. That's Tony and we have to figure out a way to get Tony doing something on this, because he is boy. Tony is a guy who will come over at 4 and leave at 2 a.m. and there's no beers left and there's no brain cells left. but you've laughed the entire time, and you've talked about politics for a decent amount of the time, and then he will also try and teach you how to cook something, but you're never going to cook it. That's Tony in a nutshell.
You make your own pasta.
Yeah. Every time I even bring up Tony around Mallory, Mallory's just like, get him to teach you to cook, dummy. And I'm just like, what? We got Notre Dame prospects to yell about. Tony B, shout out.
Tony was a year older than me and just the funniest person in the school. Like there wasn't anyone funnier. And I was like, I didn't know him, but we were in that class, and he was him and his friend Jason, that they were so funny together, just naturally super funny people. But then Tony on top of that would just do impressions that were like insane.
Yeah.
For like a high schooler, you're like, this is insane, like how good you are at this. And so we were all in this improv class, and there was one like sketch where like I made them both laugh in a scene, and it was like from that moment like we were friends, the three of us. And then Tony was doing stand up, and I feel like Tony's sort of who pushed me to do it too, just because like I looked at him and he always was like, it's no big deal, like I don't know, I'm just like, I was like, you're doing stand up? And he's like, well, I don't know, I'm gonna go on stage and do some stuff, like you just never was really that big of a deal, which I feel like a lot of people, like it's a huge deal when you have the thought like, oh, I want to do stand up. You like you hype it up in your mind of like, okay, now I'm gonna go to the, and you all these, and then you maybe never get to it, or it's too big of a moment by the time you get in. Like and I remember, so Tony did the competition at Western, because he also went to Western like the year but while I was a senior in high school. And I don't know if he won, but he was like in the finals. I thought that was so cool. Like, oh man, he's out doing stand up in a thing. It was just, and he was like, yeah, well, I mean, next year you're gonna do it, right? And I was just like, I don't know. I mean, I did it for my high school. I didn't know if I was gonna do it again. It was almost just like I wanted to do it for my high school, and that was it. Like I didn't know, And he was like, no, it would do it. I think he was like, it'd be stupid if you didn't do it. Like you already did it. Just do the same things that you did. It's not like you're in the so anyway, so Tony was a huge part of me doing stand-up as well. And it all started in Miss Goss's improv class, and she was just super encouraging to being like flexing that creative thing. And I think she was like could sort of recognize like, okay, like you'd be good at this, like you'd be good doing your, like you're a good, maybe she recognized like that I could write stuff like bits, like, or do command stuff on my own instead of like, doing the group thing.
Yeah. Well, you're also doing, I mean, did she know about the magic tricks?
No, I don't think she did.
And I only asked that because that's like a sketch.
Yeah.
In a weird way, that's like a sketch,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just imagine like all the teachers talking shit about this student doing dumb magic tricks.
Goss and Brandy Burger, sneaking a Marlboro Red out back, and they're like, "What are we gonna do about Trevor Smith?"
Then
Ruins
someone comes to the
passing
teacher's
period
lounge,
every
like,
time.
no, he did the trick. I saw him do it. They're the ones that saw the one time I did it. No, it was really good. He's really good at magic.
I like the idea of you doing that trick once and being like, "Fuck, I'm really magic." Ugh. Ugh,
No, I didn't want to be a magician.
No, I gotta.
But okay.
Buy all these rabbits. This is terrible. But so at this point, are you also drawing? And do you feel like those two things kind of worked in tandem with each other or intersected?
So I was also I was obsessed with drawing cartoons, and I was taking, there's only so many art classes I could take at high school and middle school. There's just not a ton. So I was taking extracurricular art in the Ann Arbor community programs. And so I kind of had a mentor, Bob Banks, who was he was a caricature artist, and he
Bob Banks. Are you talking about Bob Banksy?
Bob Banksy?
Banksy?
Oh, he's known for doing sort of very poignant street art. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like a guy throwing a Molotov cocktail, but instead of a Molotov cocktail, it's a Garfield cartoons.
Yeah. No, but he was
that was not worth interrupting. I apologize.
But teachers they want you to draw still lifes and stuff, and I always wasn't good at that. I just I like drawing cartoons, and that was it. So it was a different world to escape certain weeknights and go with someone who was being I don't know, more teaching me cartooning, and caricatures and stuff. And it was and I was the only person like that in that class. He happened to have done that, but he was just teaching a regular draw pastel class or something. No one else in there was doing cartoons, so he was kind of giving me special project assignment things to do. And then I was doing comic strips always, just I loved Far Side, so a lot of them was always the one panel gags. Mm-hmm. And then I felt so I was always writing ideas for one panel gag comic strips. And then I feel the stand-up set that I did for my high school was basically things that started as things that I thought would be funny cartoons that were maybe too hard to illustrate. And then I would say them and I would just act out what I thought was funny about that.
Yeah.
So they 100% not only influenced each other, they literally came from the other, I feel like.
Wow. That's to have that kind of, synergy of your ideas at that age, I think is very impressive.
Yeah.
Even now I struggle, there's so many times where I'll have a bit or whatever, and I'll talk to somebody I'm writing with or whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, that would be a great sketch." And in my head, I'm like, that is such a foreign concept to me, where I'm just I don't know if tunnel vision is the right word, but I just have a one-track mind sometimes. So to be able to kind of have one hand scratch the other is it never really worked the other way or since then. Because I feel then once you never mind.
It was just the genesis of the first set.
Yeah.
I know kind of came from there, because it was just similar to the idea of jotting down ideas for jokes, as we do for comedians, as comedians. I just didn't know what that was. And then I was just if I was going to do stand up, there was that thing about the Flash or something that I'll do that. Yeah. But then I feel once you get that, once you kind of do it as stand up, then you are only thinking in stand up. I was never able to be do that same thing, I feel ever again, where I was these weren't stand up ideas, but I made them, because once I was in stand up mind, it was always I tried to get back, or do it the reverse way. Be I could never get this bit to work. I wonder if I could draw it as a comic.
Yeah.
To simplify it. And they never really worked that way either. But definitely,
it's a great jumping off point for sure.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the bits you did on that first set?
I
won't make you do them because that's That's
Yeah, no,
that sounds
I
torture.
remember a few. I think I still have. I'm kind of like a weird about saving. I know I have the set list actually somewhere that I wrote out. That I have saved, so I could probably find the whole. I don't know what those are because they're just like words, but in a a list, not like written out. But I definitely remember there a couple of things that I said, which were kind of the same things I told when I went to Western.
Yeah.
And did.
Well, I mean, you're not gonna write a whole new set. It's time tested. It's
right, just like 1-0.
Yeah, come on. What are you gonna do? You were also the first comic I ever met that had his own stationery, and you're also the last comic I ever met to have his own stationery.
I still use that stationery because I don't.
It's amazing.
I try to use it sparingly because I know I'm not gonna print. I mean, I guess I could probably print them again, but I made those myself because I was like, I had a class in college where we were, I don't know, we had to make like 4 like notepads and with different designs, and so I put, I thought this was funny, so I wrote it down, which is why I use paper. So it just the stack of paper just said I thought this was funny, so I wrote it down, and then and I still have stacks of those note cards, and that's what I would write. That's what I would write my set lists on. I would fold them up and put them in, wrap them in rubber bands, and I would have these stacks of cards.
And everyone, I think more people should have their own stationery. And tune in next week to our rebranded podcast, Stationary Smationary. It's the best. It's gonna be so tight. We're talking 3x5 cards. We're talking glossy finish matte photo paper. We're talking stationery. This has been lovely.
I mean, not to like bring this down, but I'm more of I like a 5x7.
Whoa.
I like a 5x7 because I fold it and I use 1, 2, and then I fold it the other way, and I basically have 4 sides to write set lists on the 5x7.
Here's what I do, and I have my stand-up notebook right over here. I'll put all my bits in the front, all of them, and then I'll rip it out and then put it in my pocket for later.
Like that. See, I have these stacks of I've been in stand-up for so long. I don't know but like basically stacks of cards that I'll rubber band together, and then when I'm like doing, so I'll just always keep them in my pocket, and I'll look, whatever bits I'm doing at the mics or whatever. I mean, when comedy existed, of course. And
you're telling me, right?
And then I would just kind of like, and every once in a while I'd look through an old stack that I wasn't carrying around regularly, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I haven't done that bit in a while because that just isn't on any of these cards, so I forgot about it. But every time I would do a show that I wanted to do, this is what I mean by folding it. Oh yeah, here's one of the funny.
Trevor, we know what folding is.
just
show us folding.
No. Like you put a crease in it.
The people that are new to the world, here's what folding
see how this is one side and this is another side. But what I do is I basically make 4 sides. Look at this. There's a whole inside. I didn't even touch it.
Not to be mistaken with 2 sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now,
and this is, a lot of people would say, I think, this is hamburger style folding. It's a technical term.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. And I look through these cards, and it's a kind of a terrible system because eventually I completely forget things because they're not on whatever card I do. But I like to write the set before I go on stage. So if I'm doing like 15 minutes, I'll write like 20 minutes worth of bits on a new card, and that'll be my card for that night.
Yeah. And now you say you put this card in your pocket. What's that?
The pocket is like a little. So no. This is actually a good question. It's like a little piece of fabric.
This is
that's question. It's part of the rest of the let's say pants, right? So if you look at your pants, there's like, how do I describe it? Like,
It's like
you could stick
folded fabric.
folded
almost.
fabric, but it's like sewn in 3 ways. So there's one way in. So you could put that in the one way that it goes, and it's not going to fall at the bottom because there's only accessible from the top, if that makes sense.
And this is this is
the end of the podcast.
I think this class is study hall. I'm pretty sure.
Ken, we just got our Wednesday nights back. The shit's done. Very quickly before we get into the pop quiz, this is another favorite story of mine. Just talk about the time you met my dad, Trevor.
Oh yeah, the first time I met Mike's dad was I went over to your house. We were going somewhere. We were always carpooling places. Oh, yeah. I feel like
here's how me and Trevor would carpool. We would agree to meet somewhere at a certain time. I would leave very early. I would be caught in traffic for 90 seconds. And then I would call Trevor out of breath and going, it's fucked. The whole thing's I'm going to be fucking, I'm so sorry. And then I would get
with still. while we were on the phone. Like, it's not even like he decided then to still show up. He literally, this is true. He called me once to say, story? I'm in traffic. I cannot make it. I'm just stuck. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Maybe just meet there. I'll sign you up or whatever, wherever we were going. I forget what the thing was. And he was like, yeah, if I could even make the show or something. And then we're still like on the phone. And I'm just like, I was maybe a minute goes by. And then he's like, you know what? There's no more traffic. I'm actually going to be early now. And, and like, he beat me to the venue. It was literally like, I can't go. There's no way I'm going to make it to like a minute later.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I could still carpool if you want, or do you just want to meet there? Like you said.
Very dumb.
But I went to your house to pick you up. That's the only reason that's important, because your dad wouldn't just meet us at like the park and ride thing. Yeah. Like it's not like and your dad answered the door and he was like, yeah. And then you were like, oh yeah, you were like leaving, like, oh yeah, that's Trevor. And your dad like kind of barely acknowledged because he was on his phone, and he was just like, oh yeah. Hey Mike, you think you're hot shit? Look at this. And he started showing you all the levels of Angry Birds that he had gotten past.
Hot shit.
And he scrolled through a whole bunch. And I don't know Angry Birds, but he sat there. It felt like a bit where because he was scrolling for so long that it was impressive. Your dad got through so many levels of Angry Birds. It was such a funny introduction, because like it wasn't really a hello to me. It was, hey Mike, before you go, you think you're hot shit? Look at this.
I know you're going out there, following your dreams and all that. You tell your little jokey jokes. Speaking of dreams, 3 stars every little, you little punk bitch. It's like, what?
It was, and to this day, I'm just like, oh man, what did Mike do before that made your dad be like, I'm hot shit?
No idea.
Because that's such a funny, like, I can't hear that you think you're hot shit without thinking of your dad. That's such a funny, like, thing to say.
You think you're hot shit. But that's like such a perfect, like, my dad joking thing, where instead of like actually saying something that would be like a roast or something, or like cutting you down, he'd just be like, yeah, you think you're great, check this out, hook shot. And then he that was like how my dad interacted. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing that. I just needed to get that down on wax, because my mom doesn't believe that it happened.
No, it doesn't.
100% true. Awesome. So we do a pop quiz at the end of each and every episode of this. Usually it's something related to school. Actually, the last couple of weeks I've forgotten to do it, but I remembered this time. This is a get. There's
quiz.
upwards of 3 text messages back and forth to book Trevor on this. And we got him, baby. And the charity we're playing for this week, we've worked with them before. We're going to work with them again to sell because we have a 734 guest. We're gonna give some money to the Shelter Association of Washtenaw County again. Also, I'm doing their benefit show in June. So if you want to pay $125 to see a PowerPoint and then me do 10 minutes of jokes on a golf course,
Do it.
set that up when it happens. So Shelter Association of Washtenaw County. Trevor, this is a very important quiz.
Okay. How many questions?
There's 5. You are unquestionably the biggest Detroit Lion fan that I know. So I've cooked up 5 Detroit Lion trivia questions for you.
Oh man, I don't know. Okay.
Get this. It's $5 a question, but we always give $25.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Because it's yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Question number 1. Detroit Lion trivia. Also, if you get 5 out of 5, I've set this up with the front office. You get to pick the first round pick. It gets to be your decision.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do any of this. This is too much. This is too much pressure. I don't want to do this. I don't want to pick the player.
You have to. It's gonna be
the contract's already written up. It's your
Get
job
this.
now.
Shit.
Here's the good thing about picking the draft pick for the Lions. Even if it's bad, it's not going to be Nick Fairley, Charles Rogers bad. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's going to work out relatively well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think we won that trade with the Rams?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it was great for both. I think like, yeah, we got a lot, which was somewhat paying for to get rid of Jared Goff, but like, no, I mean, I always think that any player that's that old that now has a little bit of fire in him to like, something to prove is ultimately a good thing wherever they are. So even if you're not a huge Jared Goff fan, it's like he's in a situation to maybe do the best he did just because he's trying to prove an entire like organization that he is who
Still play.
who they drafted. Yeah.
And I think the Rams are probably at least the favorites to win their division, if not make a very deep run in the playoffs. I think
For sure. I mean, I think Stafford's great, and I think that he's a great fit for that team. I mean, it's a hard division, but I think they have a legitimate shot with him.
I think they do too. And this has been Inside the Huddle. I'm John Clayton, ESPN. All right, question number 1. What Motown singer tried out for the Lions in 1970?
It's 70.
The height of Motown. He says to Berry Gordy, I can't sing and dance anymore. The gridiron's calling me.
I don't know. Who was it?
Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Marvin Gaye. Again.
I mean, probably a good thing. So, like, he didn't make the team, or else we would have heard about it.
Oh, no, he played quarterback for 6 years.
It's in the Hall of Fame.
You didn't know this?
What is going on? I didn't know that at all. No, that's
heard that one through the grapevine. You know what I'm saying?
That one took so long for me to get, and I am ashamed of myself for that.
Yeah.
But that was a great joke.
But what's funny is that that was an initial thought. I feel like the year threw me because I was just like, I feel like it would have to be someone who was young. Well, I don't know how old he was in 1970, but I was like, what age was he when he tried out for the Lions?
What a question.
Yeah,
I guess he was probably young then.
He was like fairly young still at that point for sure.
I mean, I don't think you're trying out.
But in nowadays, you can't think of anyone past like 20 trying out for like it's like fresh out of college.
Yeah.
He was 31.
No,
that's crazy.
Way.
He was the age I am now, and he tried out. That is nuts.
All right,
because that was the person
ready
that
to
came to my mind, but I was just like, he would have been too old. but anyway.
Like, what if I just dedicate the rest of my core? I don't think I could play professional football. Just because of my height and
everything else. Yeah. No, I get
complete lack of athleticism. I think.
I mean, I almost played in college. I could have. I got hurt.
Yeah.
I've told this.
What if you thought the only reason you weren't playing professional football is because you never asked if you could join the team?
All right, gotta listen. I'm just sitting around waiting for the coach of the Jaguars to email me. They obviously need some help. You know what? I'll be the bigger man. I'll fire the first shot.
Yeah.
Coach at jaguars.com. I'm ready to go. Send. Fucking 31 and he tries. Jesus
That's
Christ.
insane. I love the confidence though.
I mean, if you can sing like that, I think you would be confident about everything. I can see being like that level of dude and then just being like, yeah, I can play football.
Right.
Can these idiots sing? I don't think so, baby.
I mean, it definitely it's interesting because it definitely happens the other way all the time, where athletes get into acting or singing or whatever else. So it's like it's interesting to that way.
Not even famous athletes will try and sit like Denzel Valentine, who went to Michigan State and who used to live in our neighborhood. He's like a bench play. He's like the sixth man for the Bulls. He just dropped a hip hop album, and I'm like, what? This is like a legitimate side gig for you. This is like if a comedian drove Uber. Like it's the same. The same thing. It's like not bad either. I had to, Anyway, Denzel, if you want to come on the podcast, you're welcome anytime, buddy. I think that's probably a gettable. Of all the NBA players, I think he's one of the more gettable ones for this podcast. We saw him at Yoke once. Great kid. Number two. What was the original mascot of the Detroit professional football franchise? What was their original mascot?
2 lions. They didn't have room on the helmet. I know this one. 2 lions.
What were the lions doing on the helmet?
Huh?
Were they high-fiving? Were they fighting?
It's kind of like it was just a scene of 2 lions. It was like a whole scene.
Whole jungle scene.
Yeah, it was like a jungle scene, and they're like, you should just be like one. And they're like, no, we're the lions.
It was a pack of lions.
And they told them to get rid of one. And that's and they kind of, and this is a fun fact. This is actually true. They got rid of it. Technically, it's 1 lion, but it was on both sides of the helmet, which is a little wink, wink to there's still 2 lions.
Yeah. I have Spartans, but I think that's a better. I'm gonna start. They used to be the 2 lions. The Detroit Lions. It used to be 2 lions. And Ken said it was a pack. Yeah, 2 is technically a pack. It's the smallest pack you can have.
Yeah. It's a pair of lions.
Yeah, a pair of lions.
A pack of yogurt. Like it's 2.
I've heard of, I've heard of a paralegal, but a pair of lions? What do you get out of here? I have to go to the mall. Question number 3.
Here we go.
Who was the first lion to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Oh boy. When did the Hall of Fame start? I probably don't get to ask you questions.
I mean, I'll look it up.
Yeah. Okay. While you're at it, also look up who the first lion to go to the Hall of Fame.
I can look that up. Yeah. Well, it started in 1960.
It was for sure Marvin Gaye.
It was,
do you want to just give me a name? Give me a fun 50s football name. They all had crazy names back then.
I don't know anyone from those 50 because they were like they won championships before the Super Bowl, so it's got to be someone from those teams, I would think.
Yeah.
But I don't know anyone from those teams. So is it old leather shoes Johnson?
Oh boy, Leather Shoes Johnson was the second, but the first was Dutch Clark. Dutch the Oven Clark.
Dutch Clark.
Dutch the Oven Clark. He was a great man from the streets of Rotterdam. The next one, you kind of hinted at this, and we're sitting very pretty on time. But
I'm also doing really good at this quiz.
Yeah, you're killing it.
I mean, I'm 1 for 2 right now because I got 2 Lions one, but I missed the other.
You didn't even get the amount of questions we've asked right.
Right.
Wait a second. You asked me 3, right? This is number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
You said 1 for 2.
1 for 2.
Oh, 1 and 2. You know, the thing is, I mentioned that math is my worst subject. This is a callback.
Great call. That's a fantastic callback. Motherfuckers be dancing and shit. In what year did the Detroit Lions win back-to-back National Football League titles?
I want to say 50, 55, 56.
Ooh. So close. 52 and 53.
Oh. I thought it was 56 also. Just seemed like a good Detroit Lions year right there.
Did something about 56. I felt confident. When you said it was wrong, I was like, oh, it's probably 56, 57. 56 felt more right. But... Well.
We got one more, baby.
One more.
This one I think you actually are going to get because the answer is a guy from our childhood that I know that we both love. They went 9-3 in 1956, did not qualify for the playoffs. But I think they did win the championship in 1957. Yes, they won the championship in 1957. Yeah. Anyway, how about that? Final question. This gentleman, we know him from our childhood. He wore fingerless gloves in the NFL. Who holds the franchise record for quarterback sacks?
Is it Spielman?
Oh, no. Trevor. Number 91 was his number.
Porsche?
It's Robert Porsche.
Yeah.
Fingerless gloves. Like he's right.
I forgot that he wore fingerless gloves.
I think
it threw me. It felt like a line. I think the gloves thing is what made me think him because I was just like, that feels like a linebacker thing to do. Well, so what's my 0 for 5? How did I do?
0 for 5.
Fuck.
You made 100% of your donation though. That's
you did get $25 sent to the Shelter Association of Washtenaw County.
I don't still have to pick. I don't have to pick the Lions pick now because
no, they don't even want you to watch the draft.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I feel relieved. I feel good. Well, for a good cause.
Yeah. And Shelter Association of Washtenaw County does go to help unhomed people in Washtenaw County. They've been at it for years and years and years. Support them, donate to them. Awesome. Before we get out of here, Ken, the headmaster Hamlett, give us a grade, buddy.
Grade. This was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed this one. I learned so much about your guys' comedy careers, and I learned a lot. I didn't know the Marvin Gaye thing. I was really thinking somebody else. That one stuck with me. I'm gonna give this one a solid B. Solid B.
Wow. Okay.
If we would have gotten C's for this one, we would have been.
I know. I couldn't have handled it. I wouldn't have handled it. I would have begged for extra credit.
Please begin as a credit. Please.
That's how I passed Spanish in high school. I was also bad at that, but I drew my teacher like flashcards that she could use, and like a bunch of stuff for her classroom, and I got a bunch of extra credit.
It's more like a bribe than extra credit.
Kind of that. Anyway. So what I'm saying is, if it was a C, I would have resulted to my old, like, what do you need? What can I offer?
Ken's got a kid. You could draw something for Ken's kid.
Yeah.
Good looking.
How old?
Oh my God. Ken's baby hasn't been on the podcast yet, but as soon as the numbers dip past a certain point, that kid is weekly appearances.
It's always the end of a sitcom, right? When they introduce the baby. So I hold off for a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
we'll bring his TikTok fan base in, and it'll explode.
What you need to do is kind of do like a young Sheldon, but do young education, schmeducation, and it'll be sort of like the next generation prequel to education, schmeducation.
We'll bring in someone who has never been to school. A very fresh perspective.
Oh yeah.
Trev, thanks so much, buddy. You're the best.
This was great.
Where can
good talking to you.
Where can the people find you? Can they still get coloring books? What do you got?
Yeah, I'm at Hey Trevor Smith on Instagram and everything else. And I have a lot of prints of caricatures and things that I've done. Particularly if you're in Michigan and hearing this, I've done a lot of like Michigan related things, like putting the Ninja Turtles in the Ninja Turtles in like Detroit outfits and things like that. I have a coloring book called This Won't Help, which is a anxiety inducing coloring book.
Really funny.
It's a very intricate, serious design coloring book that I illustrated, but it also reminds you of things that make you feel a little bit worse as you're coloring. And so you can get that on my there's links in everywhere, my website comediantrevorsmith.com, and that's on Etsy as well if you search This Won't Help.
Cool. And we'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes as well. Awesome. Ken, what's your deal?
Everything Ken Hamlett, social media wise, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and then I got some shows coming up. I'll be in Iowa my birthday weekend, March 5th and 6th. I'll be at Teehee's Comedy Club, and then you can go to my website, bigblackschlongs.com.
Can't believe you got it. You got it. I'll be at the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase in May still. I'll be in Milwaukee in June still. They asked me to if I wanted to bring an opener to Milwaukee. I forgot that I could bring Ken. I'm so sorry. If they haven't got anybody, I'll see what I can do. So if you're booked for that Milwaukee show and you're in the middle, get ready to get bumped at the Mike O'Keefe on everything. At EdgeMed Pod on everything. This has been lovely. For Trevor Smith, for Ken Hamlett, I have a crush on Danny Fernandez. See ya in class, but until then, ass dismissed.